Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? A former Saint great, Lance Moore, good enough to join us here for a couple of minutes. You can find him on WDSU television as well. He's on Twitter at LanceMoore16. Lance, we always appreciate you, man. How are you?
Doing well, fellas. Trying to stay cool out here in this 90-plus degree Southern California weather. Feels like I'm right back in Louisiana right now.
Hey, how much back and forth do you do with Louisiana and SoCal?
Not a ton. I travel to a few primetime games a year, obviously working with WDSU, and then I usually try to get out there at least for one game, if not with the whole family, at least my wife and I. So not a ton, but, when I get back, it always feels like I never left, and I miss it when I'm not there. So the love and the affinity for the place is still there for sure, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Love to hear it, man. Stay hydrated out there. Hey, we saw today at practice, Michael Thomas was there. He was limited on the injury report, but he's there, and I think we all expect he's going to play. I'm gonna start with a very broad question that I hope, because of your experience, you can answer in a very specific manner. How does having Michael Thomas back affect the offense?
Well, first and foremost, we're talking about a guy that was, a few years removed from being the offensive player of the year in the National Football League. This isn't some slouch that's coming back. This isn't just the run-of-the-mill starter that's coming back. This is a big-time impact player, not only for what he's able to do personally as far as stacking up the big numbers and making big plays out there, but what he's now going to be able to do as far as opening everything else up around him. Not trying to throw shade at the receivers that we've had the last 2 years, but I think the group now from top to bottom is a lot better than what we've had in a long time. So having Mike T out there, obviously it does great things for Jameis as far as having a big-time playmaker out there, but it also makes defenses have to account for him in a manner that they do for big-time receivers. It's not always as easy as, hey, our best corner is going to guard your best receiver. Some guys like to do that defensively, but not a lot of teams have that true shutdown corner that can just take a single player out of the game. So with that being said, I don't believe Atlanta is a team that has a guy. Now, they have a couple good players, a couple good corners, but they don't have a guy that I think they could say, hey, take this guy out of the game. So with that, there's got to be help coming from somewhere, whether it's a safety or another corner or a linebacker that's running underneath, or even a defensive lineman that's getting out. So that allows other guys to be less focused on defensively and allows things to open up more offensively for us and makes things easier for a play caller like Pete Carmichael to be able to do his job. Add to that the fact that if they're spending more time worried about what Mike T is doing on the outside, Alvin and Mark and the running backs, even throw Taysom in there, those guys should be able to have a lot of room up front to be able to get those yards.
Lynch, you may have just answered it, but if I could, after the game, I could look at the box score and see Michael Thomas's receptions, yardage, all that sort of stuff, and know his impact. But what other player might most be impacted by Michael Thomas being on the field Sunday?
Well, I think it's Jarvis Landry. He's a guy that's going to be playing, I would say, primarily in the slot against a defense that I don't think is going to be very good. He's going to benefit tremendously. But to go back to what you just said, who's going to benefit the most? I think the team is going to benefit the most from having him out there. And going beyond what you said about the box score, I don't think it matters what his stat line is for this game. I think what matters most is that he is able to play and get out of it healthy and make that something to build on for the rest of the season. I'm not saying that it's okay if he goes out there and he doesn't touch the ball. He's one of the tops in the game, and I think we'll be reminded of that. He's got to touch the ball some, but I don't think it's a situation where we need to force feed the guy the ball. He's got to have 10, 12, 15 touches in this game for us to be successful. I don't think that's the case. I think it's more important that he's out there and he's healthy.
He's on Twitter at Lance Moore 16. Lance, I always love your perspective, and you kind of have a perspective that's rare in that you were on the team the last time there was a coaching change from 05 to 06 when Sean Payton came in. So you were there in that uprooting culture change when Sean Payton came in that we've heard so much about. And they worked so hard to maintain for 15 years, Lance. Are you in any way concerned, or what might we expect with a coaching change from Sean Payton to Dennis Allen? What sort of expectation do you have there?
Well, I don't expect a whole lot to change, honestly. I think the two situations that we're talking about are apples to oranges situations. I mean, a hurricane displaced team that stunk. And obviously it was writing on the wall throughout the season that Haz was going to get fired. So he gets fired and Sean comes in. Obviously there's going to be a big time culture change. Obviously there's going to be a lot of new faces, not just in the locker room, but all around the organization. A lot of new people, and just trying to right the ship, for lack of a better phrase, to try to get things going in the right direction, as opposed to what we dealt with throughout the entirety of the 2005 season. Dennis Allen stepping into this role, not only is he a guy that's, been around this organization for a long time, but he's familiar with the ins and outs of the entire organization. He knows all the people that he's working with on a day-to-day basis from top to the bottom. And I believe that when you've got something that's established in such a way that winning is the culture, I don't think you uproot that to try to establish something that's completely different. Now, I do think there's going to be certain things that are different about what DA does, that are different from Sean. And I think the coaches that have the most success are the coaches that do things their way. Kind of to go off topic, but if you look at the disciples of a Bill Belichick, they have struggled. And a lot of them have struggled because they've tried to emulate what Bill has been able to build over the length of his entire career. And it's hard to be successful when you're trying to be like somebody else. I think players see through that, coaches see through that, and the organization and people around kind of see through that. Like, is this guy really being authentic? I think DA understands that. And the really good part about what's going on with him is that this is his second go-round. This isn't his first time as a head coach. He's not a newbie to this thing. Now, he didn't have great success when he went to coach the Raiders, but I would, be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that this is a playoff-ready roster that he's kind of inherited, as opposed to a team that stunk and then he became the head coach, which, usually means the team didn't win a whole lot of games, which means they didn't have a playoff-ready roster. So there's a lot of differences with this situation to his prior situation, and I think that people will be pleasantly surprised. I mean, I'll kind of put a button on it, but that's really my thinking of him as far as being the head coach and this team in general.
Lance, I got two more for you. One, what's your expectation for Jameis Winston?
I think Jameis is going to continue to build on what he started to do last season. I think being in this Saints offense, I was getting ready to call it the Sean Payton offense, but now it's the Saints offense, this Pete Carmichael offense, being able to sit down for a year and watch and learn under Drew Brees and the coaching staff, as far as, not necessarily taking away some of his aggressiveness, but kind of understanding better when to use it and when not to use it. And I really do expect him to still push the ball down the field. I mean, that's one of the greatest parts of his game is that he's got the arm to do or to make all of the throws. So I think that we're going to continue to see that. But I think we'll see great decision-making from him this season. Every now and again, there's going to be something that happens in the game, and people are going to be like, whoa, why did he do that? And all of the talking heads are going to be like, well, Jameis Winston, the old Jameis Winston is back. And I'm not going to be one of those people. I think he's going to continue to grow in this offense and command this offense. And really, I think we're going to see a pretty explosive offense, one that we have not seen the last several years.
You have a key for Saints Falcons on Sunday. Saints are a 5.5-point favorite. I like them. I'm sure most people do on Sunday. Is there something that you'd like to see a key for Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's several keys, obviously, and there's really several keys that you can take into every single football game that are very, very general and vague, but I think they apply here. I mean, the first and foremost is to win the turnover battle. And usually on WDSU, they just ask me offense. I don't really get a chance to talk about the defense. But if we take care of the football and we create some turnovers on defense, I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it be a 2 or 3 score game. And that's just looking from the outside view. Really haven't put in a ton of time on the Falcons quite yet. Obviously, I need to dive in here in the next couple of days, but I just think that this is one of those games where if we don't turn the ball over, we win the game. If we don't turn it over and we turn them over a couple of times, then we win by a couple of scores. And then from there, I'd love for us to win the rushing battle. So establishing the line of scrimmage on offense and obviously limiting their running attack on defense, because obviously when you're running the ball effectively, it opens everything up and makes things easier around you. And then as far as the passing game goes, I say we have to win the big play battle. We know they've got a guy over there in Kyle Pitts that is just as dangerous a weapon as anybody in the National Football League. So if we can kind of limit the damage that he's able to do, I think Drake London's going to be a good young player, but I'm not too scared of him going into this game really at all, because I think our secondary is one of the best in the National Football League and doesn't get nearly enough credit. But soon we will as we start playing these games here coming up this week.
He is Lance Moore, former St. Grade. He's on Twitter at LanceMoore16. Look for him on WDSU television. Always good to spend a couple of minutes. Lance, we appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and enjoy the start of the season.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.